This is episode 3 with Alison Armstrong. Hi, my name is Mike Dillard, and this is Self-Made Man, the podcast for men who want to leave their mark on the world and create a legacy of honor, integrity, and achievement in every aspect of their lives. I'm glad you're here, and once again, it is time to forge your destiny. Hello and welcome back to Self-Made Man. This is Mike Dillard, and today we are going to dive into an incredibly important topic, one that actually has more of an impact on your level of happiness over the course of your life than anything else out there, which is your relationships. Last year, my friend Caleb introduced me to the work of a woman named Alison Armstrong, and I ended up buying a few of her audiobooks on Audible, and what I have learned from her has been absolutely life-changing. In fact, I would say that over the past 1 to 2 years, her work has had more of an impact on my life than anything else that I have learned or discovered. And as far as I'm concerned, Alison has cracked the code. She has created what I can only describe as the definitive instruction manual for incredibly successful relationships between a man and a woman. Would you like to know why you and your partner get into arguments? Would you like to know how to dissolve and resolve those arguments so that they don't happen again, or that you get through them successfully and you come out the other side happier and closer than you were before? Well, you're going to learn that today and much, much more. And I want to apologize ahead of time for the audio quality this time around. In this episode, Alison had some internet problems at the time, so Skype was unavailable, and we had to tap into her cell phone, which was not the best quality. So while it's a bit difficult to hear, what you're going to learn from her today is going to change your life. So thank you so much for joining us, and here is Alison Armstrong. All right, here we are today, another episode of the Self-Made Man podcast, and I am super excited to introduce all of you to someone that I have enjoyed learning from and that has had a huge impact on my life over the last year, specifically Miss Alison Armstrong. Hello, Alison.
Hi.
I've been looking forward to this interview, Alison, with you for, almost a month or two now since we first scheduled it. And one of my primary goals behind the mission for Self-Made Man is to really help men achieve their highest potential in every aspect of their life, from finance to health and fitness and business to relationships. And it was an amazing privilege to get you on here as my very first guest for this project to touch on relationships, because I believe that you have put together what I would consider the only definitive guide that I've ever seen, or instruction manual, you might say, for men and women and the relationships that they have. So I'm super, super grateful that you're here.
Thanks, Mike. A guide. That's a good idea. I should put together a guide. Oh, that's what the 30 hours of recordings are, right?
Exactly.
30 days of workshops. Yeah, I'm really glad to be here. And I know we're going to talk about relationships, but I've been studying men since 1991. And I've learned a little bit about, I say that sort of humbly, about how men can empower themselves and some basic things that men need to be at the top of their game. So if we have a chance to touch on that, I would really enjoy it.
That would be fantastic. And, what I'd really love to do, because, I've spent months going through all of your audio programs, and I'm going to give links to everybody who's listening to this in the show notes, so you guys will be able to find those as well. And having an hour to spend or an opportunity to spend an hour together, really just going to scratch on the surface. And so I wanted to see if you could share your insights and guidance on, some really foundational pieces that make relationships great, or what causes struggle in them. And it's such an unfortunate part of our education system, our upbringing, especially today with the divorce rate that it is, that, men specifically, but men and women, we're not taught this skill set. And it leads to a lot of emotional pain, a lot of frustration, and it's one of the most important aspects in life. And you, more than anyone, have really kind of cracked the code, at least for me. And so, wherever you would like to start would be perfect.
Okay. Wow. That's a big playground for me. Thank you. Let's see. So where I would start is with the biggest culprit in the conflicts between men and women is the idea that we are the same, or that we're supposed to be the same. The idea that we're essentially the same, we just have different plumbing. And that is at the root of all havoc, as near as I can tell. And it's funny because science is filling in things that I only had to conclude by observation. Now there's all this information from functional MRIs and work in hormones that we now can see biological causes, where I just had to approach it from behavior and trying to find out, well, what if there's a good reason for that? What if no one's misbehaving? What if men aren't jerks and women aren't scattered morons? Like what, or whatever it is that people think. What is it? What's at the source of this? What if there's always a good reason for what we're doing? And really what I got to is that we have different operating systems. And if you were to look at it on a far ends, like if you take two ends of the spectrum and you can see those differences, then all the people that fall in between, you can keep differentiating. But if you think of testosterone as an operating system and estrogen as an operating system, like if you're talking about computers, and they're so different. And just as when, if you're dealing with like a Mac and a PC, you have to have an interface
Mm-hmm.
where one can translate itself into the other. It's really that way with men and women because testosterone and estrogen shape our brains, and they shape every part of our brains. So they create two different kinds of thinking, two different ways of listening. Speaking doesn't even have the same purpose for testosterone as estrogen. Our feelings aren't located in the same parts of our body, and we don't have the same relationship to them. Men and women don't even have the same vision. Our eyes don't work the same. Our voices aren't the same. And the parts of our brain that are lit up by men's voices versus women's voices are not the same. So we're expecting the opposite sex to be a version of ourselves, to react the way we would react, respond the way we would respond, initiate the way we would initiate. And then when they don't, we either think that person's a jerk, or we think there's something wrong with us, that they're not responding the way they ought to. That if I were prettier, then he would love me more, and then he would have done what I would have done in that situation. So it quickly goes down the toilet, thinking the other person should be the same, and then taking it personally, right? And then trying to change yourself to get them to change. And it's just a disaster in the making. And one of the worst parts about it, Mike, is that all the assumptions prevent us from being curious.
And that's kind of what it's, that lack of that instruction manual, and with a lack of curiosity, you're kind of stuck.
Exactly. And you miss out on a lot of the fun, because if you think about what's romantic and what's inspiring in relationships, what's exciting in relationships, it's a sense of discovery. It's that who are you, right? Or that sense of, oh my gosh, they see me. They actually see me. They get me, right? It's like what all of us crave, to be gotten by another human being. And all the assumptions that I already know who you are. You're a man, right? You're a man, which is, a hairy woman, right? Or, you're a woman, which is just an emotionally indulgent man, right? That's what you are. You're an emotionally indulgent man. So focus.
Right.
Quit making such a big deal out of your feelings and focus. Do one thing at a time. Quit being scattered, right? And we're like, gosh, you can only do one thing at a time? How stupid is that? Quit being so stupid.
Well, let's talk about this, because you're kind of scratching on the surface of maybe what I would call some of the most common points of conflict within a couple in a relationship. And could you pick out maybe one of your most favorite, and then dive into the science behind it and the behavior behind it that kind of ends up with that conflict, and then what you've discovered through your so many years of study now?
Okay, well, let's start with one of the things that women really get ticked off about is men not doing what they said they would do and not remembering what they told them. I am
dealing with that right now.
All right. Well, I picked a good one then. So, not doing what you said you would do, that just, means you have a lack of integrity and you're a terrible person. I can't trust you. Not remembering what I said means you weren't paying attention. So you don't care about me. And if you're not paying attention, then, when you're not looking, the tiger's going to come and drag me away and eat me. And you won't even notice. And these are the conclusions that a woman has because she doesn't know that masculinity, which is created by testosterone, doesn't listen or think the same way. So you don't remember what I told you because of when I told it to you. I was trying to catch you, right? You were on the way from one thing to another, and I thought, I can catch him now. Not knowing that you were actually focused. Even though you're walking by, you were focused, you were thinking, you were shifting from one thing you're working on to another, or you might have been still in the middle of something, and you're thinking about it, you're solving a problem, and I start talking, and you learned, because if you don't respond at all, then you're really in trouble, and how you stay out of trouble, you go,
Mm-hmm.
Not knowing you just agreed to do something for me. And you didn't even hear what I said, but you went, okay. And so now you're not going to remember what I said. Then you're not going to do what I thought you said you would do. And it's all because I was talking to you when you couldn't hear me.
And let's dive into that real quick, because
okay.
you mentioned getting eaten by the tiger, and you've mentioned the diffuse awareness and the focused awareness. But let's give our listeners an intro into exactly what you're referring to on those topics.
Okay, so focus is what testosterone does to the brain, and I just like to think of it as the perfect way to think if you're a hunter. And because you decide on what it is you're going to catch, and you chase it down come hell or high water, and you're not done until you're dragging it home. And that's awesome. We are still here because of those qualities. Diffuse awareness is what estrogen does to the brain, where all these different parts are lit up at the same time, and our consciousness is spread out way beyond our bodies, and it has us be able to pay attention like the way you would need to if you were a gatherer with a child, at the breast and another one scurrying around in the grass, and you had to find the food and the medicinal plants and avoid the critters and not getting eaten by a tiger. And so you had to, on top of everything you were doing, be constantly monitoring your own safety. Our brains are perfect for that. Women don't choose to multitask. Our brain makes us multitask because it makes us aware of all these things that need to be done at once. And so diffuse awareness and this macro program that's always going, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? It's one of the biggest things that men don't know about women. And one of the ways that it gets expressed in our relationships with men is that we're always evaluating you. And it happens at a subconscious level where very few women are aware of it until I start talking about it, and then the tears just start going down their faces. Because so much of our life is just, every time we meet a man, we're like, okay, is he a protector or an attacker? Is he a protector or an attacker? So we're reading him. And then being around the same men all the time, you guys go off, right? When you're focused on producing results, you don't have everything you need, you get really frustrated and you blow up, right? You guys make a lot of noise. And words, these streams of words, with all the F-bombs and everything, having no idea that what it's doing to the women around you is going, oh my God, right? She just became an attacker. My protector just became an attacker. It's not safe here. And what women will do is will emasculate you. When you're frustrated, when you're angry, when you can't produce the result you want to produce, you scare the pucky out of us. And our response is to try to steal the power so that you can't hurt us as much. Like, how can I pull his plug? And we'll do that. We will literally take the wind out of your sails.
Can you give some examples of what that looks like?
Oh, man. It can have every form from we'll withdraw. We'll just completely withdraw and withhold our attention and participation, or we'll cut you down. Why are you being such an idiot? That's so stupid. That is such a stupid reaction, right? So like, it will attack you, it will criticize you. Another thing we try to do, so if we have a close relationship, when a man gets upset, a woman's first reaction will be to soothe you. And we'll try to soothe you in the way that would soothe us. And so we'll touch you. And like we might touch your arm or your shoulder or something, not knowing that when you're upset, you have a chemical in your body that makes touch painful. It's like this searing, on your body that happens. And so when we try to soothe you, it makes it worse, right? And then we take that personally. Oh, well, I just can't ever support you. You will never let me contribute to you, Papa. I mean, there's so many ways that women do this. Some are attack, some are withdraw. All of them you can identify as what is the fight, flight, and freeze response. We all have different versions of that. And all this just comes out of we think really differently. And man, you guys are so amazing. I do this exercise in one of my workshops, and I encourage you guys to do this if you have a chance. And that is squeeze your hand as hard as you can without breaking anything. And then ask a woman to squeeze your hand as hard as she can.
Mm.
And you'll be like, seriously? Is that as hard as you can do it? Come on, do it harder, right? Yeah, inevitably the men start cracking up because you are so strong. Testosterone makes your muscles dense. It makes your bones thicker. Your upper body strength is incredible. Oh my gosh. You get anything above your waist, right? Your lower body strength, that's where we have strength, is in our pelvis. Yours is in the shoulder girdle. You get something above your waist, and you just carry things around, right? And you pick us up, carry us around. You're so strong, and that is both really sexy and appealing. It's a turn on. Oh my gosh, you'd be a good protector. You'd be a provider. You can make me safe, or you could destroy me. And that's why it's always that protector, attacker. Are you going to use your strength for me or against me? How strong are you, and what are you going to use it for? And unfortunately, because women don't know this is all going on, we'll attack you, right? Verbally, even physically. Women can be incredibly physically abusive. And then we'll think that all men use your strength against us. We don't know how to have you use your strength for us. We don't know how to harness that. We think a complaint will make a difference when that doesn't, right? That's a huge turnoff, a complaint. Honestly saying what I need from you, this is how you could provide for me. This is what I need. This is what would make me happy. Boom, all of a sudden, man comes alive. He has a purpose. He uses all his strength for you. So a lot of...
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to ask. So, the woman demasculates the man, attempts to take away some of that power. What is the solution around that? How do we turn that into a happy ending instead of perpetuating that cycle?
Well, there's two sides of it. As you know, a lot of my work is with women in changing their perception of men and changing their ownership of being safe in the world, that they're in charge of feeling safe instead of men. But as a man, there are things that you as a man can do in order to not trigger emasculation. So it has a lot to do, almost all of it could fall into the category of pressure. One of the things that almost no men know about themselves is that you exert a certain amount of pressure in the atmosphere just by being male. And the more testosterone you have, which there's like your basic level, and then you have testosterone spikes when you're angry or when you've accomplished something. There's a victory. When you're really happy, you have a testosterone spike, and your pressure increases. And And that will often set off a woman to emasculate you. She'll respond to that increase in pressure, and it'll frighten her. And so she'll have that reaction. So one of the things that we teach men to do is how to hold your pressure in your own space. So you're still honoring your own increase of pressure, but you're holding it within your own space so that it's not setting a woman off. Another thing that you can do is watch your volume. We're really sensitive to tone. That's one of the things that estrogen does to the brain, is it makes us like, oh my gosh, our subtleties in tone are incredible. But when volume goes up, we react very primitively. Like first the voice goes up and then the hand goes up. That they're just connected to us. One follows the other. And we honestly don't have to have any personal experience of this to have that reaction. It's ancient. And so, men, you guys don't think anything of raising your voices with each other. It's like it means nothing. To a woman, it's impending danger.
Right.
Yeah, so watch keeping your voice down will help. There's also things that you can do that make women feel more safe so that when you do have a reaction, when you do get frustrated or angry or grumpy or one of those things that might set us off, that we have a more solid foundation.
And what does that look like?
All right. So the basic thing to understand is that what has the masculine and the feminine feel safe are really different. So the masculine experience of being safe when you're producing results, when you're productive. That's why you have such bad reactions when you're not able to produce results. The feminine experience of being safe when we feel connected. So when I talk about women, you'll hear the feeling word a lot, right? For men, it's what you think, right? When you think you're safe when you're productive, and you pay attention to facts, so you're factually safe. So for women, if you're going to have women feel safe, you have to let go of whether or not is she factually safe, because that gets a lot of men in trouble. Like if you're driving and you keep changing lanes, it doesn't matter that you've never hit another car while changing a lane or been hit by a car while changing a lane. That fact doesn't matter. She has her peripheral vision makes it look like the other cars are coming at her, right? So if you're moving into a lane, the car the lane over seems like it's coming at her. And she also doesn't have the same perception at speed that you do. So the faster you're going, the better your vision is than mine. And so when you're changing lanes and cutting into what looks like a little tiny spot at 60 or 70 or 80 miles an hour, to us, that's just crazy, right? Where with your sense of vision, I had plenty of room. I had plenty of time and plenty of room. So the first thing I'd say about, for all men, about having women feel safe is it really is about feeling safe. So arguing that she is safe won't help you. And then the other thing I want to say, just to up the gradient here, is not only will you help avoid being emasculated by having women feel safe, but safe and sexy go together. Safety and romance go together. So the things that make a woman feel safe also have her feel like having sex. I think I probably got their attention. What do you think,
right.
Mike?
Like, oh, all right. Incentive. All right.
There's a really big incentive here. So what we're looking for is to feel connected. And there's two main accesses to that, okay? One could be a subset of another. But if you think about interest and attention, those are your two friends, interest and attention. And interest means that you're asking about us and you're paying attention to the answer. And if you're paying attention to the answer and you remember a detail about the answer, oh my gosh, you're going to get so many points.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're like, so do you have a big day tomorrow? Well, yeah, actually I do. I'm going to be talking to Mike on Self-Made Man. It's really fun. It's really exciting. I'm looking forward to it. Well, then if my husband remembers that and says, so how did it go with Mike? Oh, he's interested. He's paying attention. He loves me. We're connected. I should have sex with him. It really does go like that. It's that simple. And so, and this is why I have men chant, details are my friend, details are my friend, details are my friend. Oh, you're wearing your new blue dress. It looks so pretty on you. I like that neckline. Oh, he's paying attention. He's paying attention. I'm safe. The tiger won't be able to get me because he would know this. I'm safe. I'm safe. I should have sex with him. I'm not kidding. And also the one thing I'd love to tell all of you guys are the questions to avoid and the questions to look for in being interested so that you don't drown. But another way of paying attention is just physically. For example, if we're walking down the street together and you move to be on the street side, you're protecting us from getting splattered by the water because the stagecoach should go by and run through the puddles. This goes way back. If you're on the street side, and especially if as you're moving to the street side, say if you and I were dating or girlfriend and boyfriend, right? As you change corners and now the street side's on the opposite side, as you're moving to the street side, you kind of put your hand in the small of my back, right? So you're like touching me as you pass behind me. Whereas we're crossing the street. So depending on how well you know a woman, like if you don't know her well, right? Like you might just touch her elbow, right? If you know her really well, you might put your hand in the small of her back. Oh my gosh, so romantic. Makes us feel safe, taken care of, connected, attended to. We should have sex. and I keep saying this because one of the big misconnects, right, between men and women is that women need to feel connected to want to have sex, whereas men want to have sex to feel connected.
Right. And it is, the deeper you move into this stuff, it is, I was hoping that you would have the answer to this, but is this like God's cruel sense of humor? Where it seems to be like everything is completely the opposite in every aspect of a relationship, where he's just like, oh, this is going to be fun. And because it's like that in like every single category you ever discuss, you're like you said in the beginning, you're totally set up to think and react in the complete opposite way than what will actually result in what you both want.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it was a cruel joke. I think there's really a beauty to the complementary natures of masculine and feminine that has me wonder about, it's just evolution or just design. It's just
the wisdom behind it, right?
Yeah, it's just so beautiful. But I think behind it is more, what do we each have to bring to a partnership to contribute to each other? Like it's really about what makes a good team. And the lesser consideration was, and then how do you get along? And I actually wrote a book about this called The Belated Education of Adam and Eve. And it's about an angel who was supposed to come to Earth and educate Adam and Eve about their upgrades and how they were designed and put together so that they could get along. But he's late because time passes differently in heaven. And so he thought he was, he arrived shortly thereafter, and instead it was tens of thousands of years, and this whole mess has been made. And
Nice.
Because Adam and Eve thought they were supposed to be the same, like, just different plumbing. And so often that's why we just have to start with being curious. How does it work for you? How do you like to be spoken to? How do you like to be touched? How do you like to wake up? How do you like to go to sleep? Like, just this whole curiosity about each other, it would all turn out better. Like if you and I were in a partnership, I'd say, okay, Mike, what's your favorite way? What would be the best way for me to ask you for something? And I'd talk about the different elements of a great ask and find out, when do you want to take over the conversation? How much information do I give you before you take over? And then you can customize things. So we can ask each other for things in ways that really work for the other person instead of completely driving them crazy. Which, before I forget, guys, in showing interest, don't ask, how are you? That's my piece of advice to save your life. Do not say to a woman, how are you? Because we are complex creatures, and we feel compelled, when you say, how are you, to report on every aspect of ourselves. So we don't just say, fine. I'm good, how are you? Right? I have to tell you my emotional state, my mental state, my physical state, to tell you about my family, my pets, anything I'm worried about, anything I'm excited about. So in showing interest, one of the best things you guys can do is find out, for the women that you're involved with, you care about, your moms, your sisters, all the women that you care about, what are their favorite questions to be asked?
That's a great idea.
Yes. And the reason behind this, okay, is if you can ask their favorite question, besides their experience attention, you're showing interest so they get to feel connected. Most women's favorite questions have to do with what they're passionate about. And studies have shown that when women are talking about what they're passionate about, men have testosterone spikes, which gives you an overwhelming sense of well-being.
Very cool.
Yes, it is cool. So a lot of favorite questions are like, what have you learned lately? Are you planning a trip, right, for travelers? So what trip are you planning now? People know I like to be asked, how's Alison? Yeah, she's my horse, right? And you can ask about grandchildren, right? Or, what are you excited about in your job right now? So all these things that are going to get a woman out of complain and report mode and into really what she's interested in and excited about.
And I'm sitting here listening to you think about this, and I'm like, does that result in a coming meta report? Is that the same thing as far as the answer goes? And if so, could you kind of fill in the guys on what I'm talking about?
What a meta report is. I love that you remember that. That's one of Tony Robbins' favorite part of my work, is the meta report. So the meta report is a woman's instinctive compulsion to give you all the details, all the where and when and what of anything that a fellow tribe member might need to know from her day. It's based in berries that aren't ripe, that you're going to go back and get them. And if I can't get them, I need to tell you where to get them. And it has an overwhelming amount of details that women can handle. We have the database for it, but men aren't prepared for it. So, and how are you? We'll get a meta report. How was your day? Can get a meta report. What did you do today? We'll get a meta report. Way better decision than like, what was the best part of your day? Mm-hmm. My favorite question that has my husband avoid my meta report is he says, what do you want me to know about you? And then I'm sorting the junk from what's important. What's meaningful to me. What do I want you to know about me?
Because as guys, especially, the A-type entrepreneurs that are listening to this, we're like, okay, just get to the point. No, just okay, tell me exactly what I need to know in as few words as possible, and let's go through it and move on. And
get back to work.
Right, so that was a huge green light for me. And it just goes back to the wiring thing. And it's not like, hey, that's just the girl that I'm with. It's every girl. So that was huge. The biggest takeaways that I've gotten over the last 6 months, because I actually just finished my first marriage, my practice marriage, I guess they call it these days, unfortunately. And now having this information, I can go back in hindsight and see where everything kind of, went awry. Mm-hmm. And one of the biggest challenges was that me being a guy, I took everything that was said to me, maybe in one of those times of conflict or demasculation or arguments or whatever, literally and personally. And because whenever I communicated how I felt, everything I said was I meant it literally. And I know that's something that you've discussed as well. And really, what I've taken away from this is now when those opportunities arise, or there's a conflict or disagreement, I no longer take it personally. It's just I actually get excited about it, because to me, I now see it as an opportunity to kind of communicate and work through the process like a game, rather than getting hurt, or I'm not exactly sure where I was going with that, but I was hoping that you could maybe, I guess, provide your feedback on that, or your thoughts around that.
Yeah, sure. And it seems like you're talking about two different kinds of upset. One is where a woman's feelings have been hurt, and she's taken over by what we call a rage monster.
Right.
And she's spewing crap that she actually isn't invested in and doesn't care about, but it looks like it. And rather than do a bad job of it, I'd rather refer folks to the Understanding Women DVD.
Mm-hmm.
And there's even a piece on the Rage Monster on YouTube that someone could just watch me imitate the Rage Monster. That experience is actually a result of a woman becoming disconnected from her own self. So when our feelings are badly hurt, we're lost in the dark. It is the most frightening part of our life, because we are disconnected even from who we are. And really bad stuff comes out of it, and it's not personal. And as you know, I've been teaching men how to deal with it. I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, right? That's the only thing to say.
Right.
I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. The other part you're talking about, which I like you talking about it, because my whole thing with sorting out gender is because I'm passionate about partnership, and gender misunderstandings get in the way of partnership. And one of the distinctions that we've developed over the years in partnership is what we call cough it up, blow it up, clean it up.
Mm.
And I'm doing a teleclass about it right now called Coughing Up the Truth. And it's really about that any time you're saying what's true for you, whether it's I'm not getting what I need, or I love you, or I want to spend the rest of my life with you, right? It's what might be considered a bad truth or a good truth. Whenever you say the truth, it's going to change the status quo. It's going to blow up reality as you know it. And we make the mistake of thinking it shouldn't, that we should just be able to say something and, oh, okay. But that rarely happens. And so we're not prepared for it to blow up. We're not prepared for there to be a reaction. And sometimes the blow up is huge. In our 20th anniversary, my husband and I, we blew up the lab and the building and the block. I mean, it was a disaster area. But thank goodness we've been working on partnership for so long, we just stood there together holding hands going, wow. Wow, what a mess. I guess we should start digging ourselves out of this. And that commitment to cleaning it up, that you're not a drive-by shooter. You don't say you need something on your way out the door. You actually are, okay, I'm going to tell you something I need. I'm prepared for you to react however you react, and I'm going to hang in there. We're going to talk it out and work it out and understand each other. And my standard is until we're glad it happened. We're not done until we're glad it happened, until we're like, damn, that was a good conflict. That was hot. Thank goodness that happened, right? Because you're stronger and happier and more in love with each other on the other side. And that's, I think, one of the mistakes that people make is they cough it up and blow it up, and then they cover it up.
Well, it is they don't have the tools to deal with it, or an example to follow, or even the acknowledgement that is possible to have a good conclusion to, I would say.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, most of our parents either just blew stuff up and left us in the rubble, or they took their conflicts behind closed doors and didn't show us how to resolve them, right? They haven't learned this. But to what you were saying, Mike, part of cleaning it up is I didn't mean that. And literally taking things back. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. That was in a moment of anger. I was just trying to hurt you, and I apologize for trying to hurt you, and I didn't mean it. I take it back. Honest, there wasn't an ounce of truth in it. And that's often part of cleaning it up. You know, other parts are, I'm sorry I said that the way I did, and there's something underlying it that I really need to talk to you about. We need to work this out. This can't keep happening, right? There's something that has to stop, or there's something that has to start.
That's been my biggest takeaway is from your stuff specifically, is that you give such good concrete examples and scenarios, and then the tools to fix it or to work through it successfully. So it's been phenomenal. You know, entrepreneurs specifically, a huge topic that you go through in one of your programs. I believe it's From a Prince to a King. Was that the title?
Oh, it's called The Amazing Development of Men.
Right, yeah. And you go through the progression. I believe there's 4 or 5 stages, correct?
Yep.
You know, we've got about 10, 15 minutes left. Is there anything, given the audience that is listening to this right now, that you think would be super valuable for them to hear, you know, as far as those stages goes, or, you know, their significant other, their girlfriend or their wife, that might help bring some understanding to why they are the way they are from a business perspective and an ambition perspective and all of that good stuff?
Yeah, if I could talk about that, and then just some things for men to look at. There's ways that men shoot themselves in the foot.
That'd be fantastic. Please.
Okay, great. So just a brief introduction to what I call the amazing development of men is the discovery that men go through stages, and the stages happen to you. You're not deciding to be that way. It's happening to you, and I'm sure at some point it'll all get sorted out in the brain, and they'll be able to explain it to me why it happens in the brain the way it does. But basically, the stage that you're in determines what you're focused on. And in the stage that we call night, like knight in shining armor, the focus is on conquest and adventure. It's on testing yourself, right? Finding out what your strengths are, even developing strengths. And I've been watching my son do this since he was 12 years old. He's 26 now. And it's just awesome, right? And knowing that he's in that stage, you know, my role in his life is I'm the outfitter. To empower him in the next stage. And he's heading at it really fast, which right around late 20s, early 30s, men will go into a stage called Prince. And princes, there's 2 things going on with princes. One is suddenly you're painfully aware you're not a king. When you're a knight, you're just the coolest thing on the block. When you're a prince, all of a sudden, I'm lacking. There's something lacking here. And you look at full-fledged kings, and there's this substance to them and they're in charge of something, right? They rule. It's like, whoa, I'm not that yet. And then there's another thing about princes, which is that it's now about building. So and you have to answer the question, where am I going to build? What am I going to build? And sometimes it takes a long time to figure that out, and you have a lot of false starts. And you just forgive yourself for those. Like, okay, well, I thought I wanted to be a policeman and found out, no, that sucked. I want to be a businessman. And so figuring out where you want to build and taking the time to do it is really important. And then that's when the head goes down, and women will complain. They'll call you a workaholic, which is just not fair. You usually don't have the bandwidth for a relationship unless how you're put together is that you want to build with. That your vision of what you're building, you're going to build with someone. So there are men who they want to build a family, right? And so they'll start hunting a wife. Mm-hmm. But then they've got to provide for that family, and so they don't usually have enough time and energy to pay attention to the wife, and it can all fall apart because she doesn't understand what's going on, which is what the recording Amazing Development of Men was mainly for, is for women to understand what's going on. But then men love that recording because now they understand. Then after Prince is what we call the tunnel, and it's a dark place, and it's a transition between being a prince and a king. and our culture calls it a midlife crisis and makes fun of it. And
that was my last 3 years, by the way.
that was your last 2 years. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
That's awesome. I consider it a sacred time in a man's life, and it's existential. You come out of the tunnel having sorted out what's important to you and what isn't, and who you are and who you are not. And that's what creates that solidity of a king, is that sense of self that is the self he's choosing to be. And princes are very adaptable. They'll try to be a lot of things for a lot of people. And in the tunnel, you're sorting out what doesn't work for you anymore, and questioning everything. And the book I wrote, Keys to the Kingdom, right, is about a man going through the tunnel and understanding the stages of development. And you get to see the tunnel from a man's point of view. He's one of 4 characters. And then you go on to be the king, and the king is all about providing, right? He switches from building to providing, and some kings end up being emperors. They're going to keep acquiring in order to provide more and be in charge of more. But kings, the satisfaction in a king's life is going to come from who he gets to provide for, and will they let him? And do they appreciate it? Do they want what he's got to give? And that's what I would say to you, Mike, coming out of a marriage. Whatever you do next, you want to be clear about what you've got to give, which in sync with opposite sex is about that. And then make sure that whoever you're with thinks that is the bomb. That what you want to give is of the highest value to them.
Right.
That's where matches up, And then last is elders, which not all men become, and it's actually a change in their brain. And more than one man has expressed it as beyond ambition, which is a very weird thing for a man to experience, that he has no ambition. And it's a real identity crisis. I've watched my husband go through it. Pretty special. I don't know how much more time we have. Can I hit on some of the
Yes,
we've
got as much as you'll give, but ideally we've got about 10 minutes left in the hour that we had scheduled together. So I will totally leave that up to you.
Okay. Well, so since this is Self-Made Man, there's just some things I'd love to convey to all of you, and it's because I love men. And in my view, right, studying you since 1991, is that you are magnificent and you are well made, and you live in a culture that doesn't know that about you, and will often communicate something else, right? That you're doing it all wrong and you're wrong, and will dishonor you at every turn, disrespect you and your values, and especially what you need. And it's one of the biggest problems with my gender is that if we don't need what you need is wrong. And it might be wrong stupid, wrong immature, wrong horn dog. We have all different ways of saying that it's wrong. And this is a lot of where my work lies with women, is for them to understand that what men need is not wrong. What men need is rocket fuel to a rocket, right? It's the high octane gas for the Maserati, right? And this machine is not going to work the way it was built if you're not giving it what it needs. And so to withhold what it needs and still expect high performance is ridiculous and mean. And one of the things that I've noticed with men is that you buy into the invalidation of what you need. And part of it is invalidation from women, and part of it is a kind of contest with men. For example, what men tend to do is get by, get as little of what you need to function, instead of as much of what you need and enough of what you need to be high performance. So, for example, sleep. There's kind of a contest of men on how little sleep can you get by on.
bragging point for sure.
Exactly.
Right.
But here's the problem, okay? Testosterone, like other hormones, has a build and spend cycle. Okay, I learned this from John Gray, who we just get a big kick out of each other, the man from Mars, right?
Mm-hmm.
So testosterone has a build and spend cycle. And when you're building testosterone is when you're at rest. So when you're sitting on the couch doing nothing, by the way, if your wife says, what are you doing? Don't say nothing, because then she'll give you something. Say, I'm building testosterone. Okay, what are you doing? I'm building testosterone. So when you're so-called doing nothing, you're building testosterone. When you're sleeping, you are most profoundly building testosterone. And I'm not exaggerating at all. My last challenge workshop, this man had been getting 4 to 4.5 hours of sleep a night for many years, prided himself on it, right? Worked till 2:30 in the morning, got up at 7, and, had a steady diet of Viagra.
Right.
Okay, first night of the workshop, he went to sleep 9:30 at night. The other men cheered him when they found it out. He got an applause. Woke up in the morning with a stiffy.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just basic biology, right? Sleep builds testosterone. It's your rocket fuel. It's what has you be focused and productive and intense and generative. And it produces erections. And it's, thank goodness, another way to provide for women. So I know with everything you guys are building, right, and you're being entrepreneurs, and, my brother says about being an entrepreneur, it's so great. You can pick any 80 hours a week if you want to work. It's your choice. Which 80 hours do you want? You have a lot of freedom, right? But I just encourage you that no matter what's going on, don't sell out on your sleep. You will be more productive. You will make fewer mistakes. You'll be more creative. You will get there faster by not having it cost your sleep. And figure out what's enough sleep. And if you wake up in the morning, at attention, you got enough sleep.
I love sleep, so I am not participating in that contest, which is great.
I'm so glad you're not.
I'm an 8-hour guy, and I don't have any problems with it. Though I do feel like sometimes guilty around it. Like, man, I could be doing more, but I'm just a mess the next day. So it's not productive.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Any other shoot ourselves in the foot kind of obvious stuff that you could give some pointers on?
Well, most men aren't getting enough sex, and it's because women don't know what it provides for them. So I'm always teaching men to let women know what it provides, because that gets us invested, that and that connection stuff we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is appreciation. People need appreciation to be brilliant, and we try to go without it. We try to get along without it. And I just would spend as much time as you can with people who appreciate you.
Agreed.
Fill that tank. Be admired, be appreciated, have sex, sleep, and move your body. Neuroscience is telling us movement is the language of the brain. It wakes up your brain. So even just moving your eyes, move your eyes from left to right and up and down and in a circle, you just woke up your brain.
Yes, I've become a huge fan of Tony Robbins' priming routine in the morning, and was at Date with Destiny this year and learned that, and that's been phenomenal. So hopefully we'll get to do a call with him on the future on that topic. But totally agreed with that.
Awesome,
Alison, do you have time for one more question?
Yeah.
Okay, it's a little off topic, but it's been sitting here kind of swirling in my brain, and we've been talking about the needs of men here over the last 10, 15 minutes. How do guys figure out the needs of the woman they are with?
Interesting.
Assuming that they're different, a little different for each woman.
Different. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, women also don't pay enough attention to what they need. So you kind of have to treat them like a lab rat and notice, after what is she in good shape, right? Oh, she went to bed early and she's in good shape. She spent time with her best friend and look how happy she is. We had a date and I just listened to her talk about what she was excited about, and she's been amazing for the last 2 days, right? So the things that you need are what we would call tank fillers. And it's yes, there's what's happening when you're doing it, but the most important thing is what's happening after you do it.
Mm.
So we coach women to do that as well. Well, like when are you naturally happy? When are you naturally focused? When are you naturally patient? When are you naturally compassionate? After what? Is it no effort to be that way? You're not trying to be a good person. You just are a good person. And that's how you can sort out what you need. Another way to look at this from the negative, like what is it that when you don't get it, you are upset or off balance or have no vitality? That's another way to see what you need, because needs always have consequences and they always have rewards.
I was hoping...
And
no, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Well, there's also some things in common. Alone time. Some people get too much and some people don't get enough. They feel guilty about asking for it. Especially women, we're often taught, we just grow up thinking we're supposed to pay attention to people. We're not allowed to just go off on our own, and so we don't get enough alone time. Go ahead. You were going to say something. I'm sure.
Oh no, I was trying to be cute and funny, and I was disappointed that there wasn't a questionnaire I could have just given her. No, but that makes a ton of sense. But it really takes a conscious effort to observe and take note of, what happens, when those needs are being met or they're not being met.
Yeah, we actually do have a kind of questionnaire like that in our 2-day Understanding Women workshop, which the one day's on video, so it wasn't in it. And you'll get a questionnaire like that if you ever do a Heroes Challenge, which I'm leading on in LA in October. And the same one applies to men. But curiously, for me, my husband knew more about what I needed than I did, because he was always paying attention to when I was happy and when I wasn't, and what caused that. So I think as men, you guys actually know more than you think you do.
Interesting. And that was actually, now that you kind of bring that up, I was hoping that you could tell everybody a little bit exactly about your workshops. And are they for singles? Are they for couples? How many do you do per year? What are they on? And I think that'd be a perfect way to wrap up today's show.
Okay. We do workshops for women about men and about being women. We do workshops for men about being a man. That's a Hero's Challenge. So that's all about empowering yourself. And then we have the co-ed workshop. So Understanding Women is co-ed, and the Dance of Partnership, and our core partnership, which is an exclusive course we do out here in Colorado with horses. And they all come from the same point of view. What if no one's misbehaving? What if you're really well made? What if the problem is understanding what we need and honoring what we need and working out the differences? And we pay a lot of attention to safety, like that it's really a safe environment. The men are really shocked by that, I think, in a Hero's Challenge, to experience such safety in the presence of other men, because that workshop also transforms the way they relate to other men and who they are for them. We're straight shooters. What we like to say is we go where others fear to tread. Mm. We have killer conversations about things like infidelity, for example, and what's the real source of infidelity. And I'm a healer by nature. And so, and my highest value is freedom. And that's, to me, what healing is all about. It's about liberating people from their pasts, from their injuries, from the dishonor they had in their life. And I also heal through elimination. What you think happened isn't what happened. And then when you see it differently, then the injury and the belief that it fostered, they just go away. So that's what they're all about. We do them all over the country as well as Canada, and we get as much recorded as we can. I do teleclasses pretty often, so whatever's the latest and greatest, I put in the teleclass to get out there. This year, we're actually recording our graduate programs for women for webinars, so that people can do it all over the world, because we have women who've read the Queen's Code and given up emasculating men all over the world now. And so I'm a workshop leader. I love them. I started out that way, but for me, it's more about getting the information out there in any way I can.
What would be the best place for people to go to learn more about your programs or your workshops?
Well, if you go to understandmen.com, that'll show you everything that we have, from workshops to all of our products. You can also find me on iTunes if you put in Alison A. Armstrong, and Alison has one L. We have a bunch of our stuff at iTunes. It's really inexpensive there. If you go to YouTube and put in Alison Armstrong, there's hours and hours of stuff. I mean, I seriously, I'm giving it away all the time in every way that I can think to do it, just to end the suffering.
Well, I am personally, truly, truly grateful. You've had a massive impact on my life this year, and I cannot wait to actually come out to one of your workshops, hopefully here in the next 2015 calendar year. And I would really just encourage everybody out there who is listening to this to really dive into Alison's stuff. I found you through Audible and all of your audiobooks that you have on there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's just great because I listen to it in the car or when I'm at the gym working out, whatever it may be. And it's been amazing. So go dive in, guys. Have your partner go through it with you as well, which is unbelievably important and helpful also. And Alison, man, thank you so much for your time today. I'm so grateful. And this is such a neat thrill for me to get to speak to you personally and to have you on the show here. And I cannot wait to hear the feedback from everybody. And I will be sure to forward all of the kind words on to you as it comes in. So thank you again.
Awesome. You're really welcome, Mike. It was a pleasure.